Welcome back to the BookEnds YouTube channel. I have a
There's
new
Olive.
co-host.
She looks on alert.
She does.
We just thought we'd give you a sneak peek.
Yes, she is not really very interested in our YouTube channel, unfortunately. However, her loss. So welcome back to the BookEnds YouTube channel. I'm James McGowan.
I'm Jessica Faust.
We are literary
That's
agents.
Olive.
That is Olive. We are literary agents, and that is a literary agent's dog, who have taken our popular blog to YouTube to discuss all things publishing. We're usually a bit more serious than, no, I lied. I lied right away. Today, we wanted to talk a bit about embracing the next phase of your publishing career. So, you know,
Excited about this.
Me too. And I think that it's not something that's talked about enough, especially for querying authors. And there's, you know, on Twitter, we see a lot of people saying nobody talks about being on submission, right? Like we talk about querying, but we never really talk about what comes next. So
well, I mean,
want to bridge us a little bit.
In our defense, the viewers really watch. The video numbers go up when we talk about querying, but not as much when we talk about agents.
That's true. People want to know about querying, but we kind of want to bridge it a little bit. So yeah. Once you get that offer of representation, it's like, whoo, here we go. Like it's like an adrenaline rush. Everything's got to happen right away. You want your revision notes, you want to get your book out on submission, you want to sell it, and you want to do it all over again. Publishing has a certain pace. So yeah. Regardless of how much you try, there are things that just happen the way they happen in publishing.
But also you have to, you know, when you're querying, you are sort of working in this frantic control, you're fully in control sort of way. And you have to make a mind shift, you know? I mean, I guess an example that maybe more people can relate to is it's the difference between sending out resumes and actually working a job. Like you have to make a mind shift, like you're no longer the job hunter.
Right. It's funny, I actually saw this video on TikTok where the girl was walking through the city and she said, you know, I forgot that when I applied for the jobs, I'd have to work the job. And I feel like that's what happens in publishing.
So great, it totally is.
Right? Like you forget that when you get the agent, it's different. Like it's not querying anymore. Now it's trying to get the job. Now, you know, does that make sense?
Well, and also now somebody else has expectations of you. When you're querying, it's about you and your expectations of getting an agent. But when you have an agent, and then again, when you have an editor, because you've sold your book to the publisher, it becomes about also working with somebody else and the expectations of those individuals, but also the industry as a whole.
Right. And the industry as a whole, there's always going to be, you know, we always say there's a million different roadmaps to success in publishing.
Yeah.
You might take 10 years to get your first book on the shelves. You might take a month to submit and your book, you know, but there is a bit of a standard, right? Like typically folks will have one book come out a year for novels and 1 to 2 picture books come out a year. Like there are these timelines within that process of when the cover should go live and when marketing and publicity starts. Like those are the way they are for a reason.
Yeah, because you're not, you know, when you're querying, it's about getting your book published. When you're published, it's about building your brand as an author. And how those two things are done, the only thing that's really the same is that you have to write a really great book for both.
Yeah.
But beyond that, they're very different things.
It's like they always say, publishing is a marathon, not a sprint. And when you start off the marathon, you have a bit more energy than when you do at the end. So like
you're good today.
I am not even one food analogy, not even one. I'm talking about running. New year, new me. No, but when you start off, that's a lie. I don't even think about running. So when you start off a marathon, you have more energy, right? So when you are querying, you are mad dash to the finish. You want that agent fast. But then you have to settle into the pre-established pace of what the industry operates on.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really, you know, I get it that when you're querying, you're maybe pushing those books out and you're doing this and you're doing this, but there is sort of a method to the madness of publishing. And it's not when you start out, especially right after you sell that book, it feels super slow, right? Not enough is happening. That's going to pick up as your career builds, because suddenly your publicity and promotion is going to take the place of actually some of your writing time, the revisions, the copy edits, the proofreading, all the different phases that you're going to have to work with your editors on. Yeah, that takes up a lot of time. And you're doing this all while writing a second book. Presumably when you were querying, you wrote that book and queried, and then we're writing the next book and editing and revising. It doesn't work that way when you're actually getting published.
No.
You got to do it all at once.
And everybody thinks they're going to have more time than they always do. They always think that they can handle it. And most of you are working full time or are parents full time. You have other responsibilities.
Yeah. Yeah. And you still have to do those things.
Yeah. So there, and then, you know, also, I think I want to talk a little bit about how when you do get an agent, there's the feeling of like, you finally did it. Now let's just get it all, right? Like, I need every single book sale. Every book I've ever written needs to be sold. I need all of this lined up. That person has 4 books for the next 4 years. Get me 4. Like, there's a lot of that. Like, I think it feels a little bit like it can all go away.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I get that fear, but pushing hard and fast and doing more is not going to keep it from going away.
Right.
What's going to keep it from going away is continuing to write really great books. And that's not always fast. A lot of times that means slowing down even more than you did with the first book and taking more time with it. The other thing to consider is you often have less time with those next books than you did with those first books. So, you know, you have to dig in a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to add about having an agent is I think it's really important for all authors to really make a plan of what they want in an agent. I think a lot of times querying authors go, I want an agent to sell my book. But your agent is now your co-pilot for your career. And your agent is going to, I think the most important thing an agent does, besides sell your book and negotiate the contract and help you deal with the money, is actually help you plan your career. So you've got to find somebody who you can trust when they say things that you don't want to hear, like, we're not going to submit this book.
Yeah.
Or
the schedule's full, or
the schedule's full, we don't have time, or we keep pushing out more books and you are going to water down your brand and it's going to hurt you. I know it feels like putting out 10 books a year is really going to sell you big, but the truth is your readers are not going to invest in 10 of your books because they can't. The
average reader cannot afford to do that.
So
nor do they have the time to do that.
Right. And we were just discussing that recently, how we don't have time to read as many books as we used to. And so what's happening is, you know, book A isn't going to sell the copies it could have because some people split off and didn't buy book A and they bought book B. And at the end of the day, the sales to both your books did not look good because you were so busy pushing things out instead of building your brand off that one book to make all of those people come by and buy that next book.
Right. And you might hear an agent or editor say, it'll cannibalize each other's sales. That's the word that everybody loves to use. But it just happens when you're watering down your readership, right? Your readership can't handle your output all of the time.
Yeah. And I've had this conversation even when I worked in publishing houses where, I often tell the story that my understanding is one of the reasons Nora Roberts writes her science fiction mystery series under J.D. Robb is that she was publishing so much under Nora Roberts that her publisher said, we don't want to cannibalize your sales.
Right.
So if we can put, and it was there was quite a period of time that people didn't know she was the same person writing those books. And they did that on purpose.
Yeah. And a lot of successful writers end up doing that in some way.
Yeah.
Another thing to consider is contracts too, right? Like there are clauses in the contracts that do require some level of non-competition or exclusivity for a time. So it gets to be a lot to juggle.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we're here to tell you and what your agent will tell you is that it's okay. Like it's okay to feel this slowdown while your career is building, while your publisher is planning the cover and all of these other things. You don't have to go full tilt all the time. Like, let it build at its pace. And like we said, it's going to be a different pace for everybody, but you could have that first book take off and then have to fight a little bit more for the next books. You could have a slow build. You could have a billion different ways that your career is taking off. Just keep writing great books. They don't have to be 5 billion great books. They need to be 5 great books.
And keep in mind, when you have books forthcoming, right, and you feel like you're not doing anything, it's just working behind the scenes. Like, things are building up, and there will come a time very, very quickly, you will not even realize it, where you'll have plenty to do. So enjoy the break, like relish in it for a bit.
And there's a lot of things you probably can and should be doing. You might not want to. They might not be as fun as writing, but you know, building your author website, building your business finances as an author. Do you have, you know, an accounting system that are tracking business finances separate from your personal finances? Have you opened a bank account for those? What about your social media accounts? Have you updated those to match your new website? Headshots, did you go get headshots? There's a billion things you need to do on the marketing and the business and the finance side that are going to fill your time while you're waiting for that next thing on the writing side.
Yes. So we hope that was a good depiction of really what lies for you on the other side of getting an agent. And I think it's not easy to do. It's a big mindset shift, but you just have to embrace it. You have to trust the process a bit, you know, especially if you have a relationship with your agent that you can trust. Trust the process and enjoy the process, because it's very easy to get caught up in all the rest and not enjoy any of your book publishing.
Yeah, and you've got to enjoy it. I mean, life is too short.
It's not worth it otherwise.
It's not. Absolutely not.
No. So we hope this was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we hope to see you back here next week.
Bye.